Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Custom Apparel Startups Podcast. And today we have another special guest. We're here to talk about online shopping and e-commerce, specifically centered around Shopify. And we've invited on Mike Angel here from ColDesi. So thank you and welcome to the show. Would you just give everybody just a quick summary of what you do here at ColDesi?
All right. Thank you for having me, Mark. My name is Mike Angel, and I head on-demand business development for ColDesi. And on-demand means all things e-commerce and all things with volumes of little as one, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So what we concentrate on with on-demand is being able to sell products, digital printed products online, and also be able to produce them efficiently. So that includes e-commerce technology, order management technology, as well as equipment like DTF printers, which are phenomenal for on-demand types of businesses.
Great. So like in short, then a small, medium, and large size businesses want, and I just want to make sure I'm kind of saying it differently, are sell customized products. And that might mean specifically, like you said, as little as one, where an organization is ordering t-shirts that are going to have the names of everybody printed on them. So every employee, it could be an organization of 100 or 1,000 employees, and instead of name tags, they're actually going to print the name on everybody's shirt on the left chest. So you will help our customers develop systems to actually make that workflow happen efficiently and specifically, as you said, online.
That's correct.
Okay. And then also as little as one. So if an organization, say, made, custom headphones or something like that, and they wanted a customer to be able to go online and put a name or something like that on, or special art on a headphone, they could physically order that singular unit online, and it outputs in a way that can be efficient to then produce and send to the customer.
That's correct.
Okay.
And we can automate that process all the way from the online store all the way to the production floor.
Okay. All right, great. So I did a little bit of homework on this. Also, I've written a handful of articles about on-demand, so I cheated a little bit. But I think it's important to help folks understand kind of who they're talking to and listening to here. And the point of this podcast is really we're going to focus on Shopify. So I'd like to maybe start with, just to make sure everybody understands, listeners of this podcast out there, somebody might be listening to who's never been in this industry at all. This is their first. They've maybe owned other businesses, but nothing in this industry. Maybe they've never sold online, and there may be folks listening who have a ton of experience. So we'll kind of lighten it up in the beginning, and then we'll get smarter and deeper as we go along. So Shopify is what we're going to talk about today, and Shopify is a tool to be able to sell online, right? It's an online e-commerce platform where essentially somebody can sign up, get their website on the internet. You can add products and descriptions and choose from templates of how you want the website to look, and say how you want to charge people with credit cards or PayPal or whatever it might be, and then hit a publish button, and you have a store on the internet, and people can go online and interact with it. And Shopify is particularly popular because it's kind of just easy to use. You don't have to have much money in your pocket to be able to actually open up an online store with that app.
That's correct.
Right. And why else do you think that platform is really popular, or a lot of folks in our industry kind of choose to use it in the customization industry?
That's a great question. Shopify is one of many platforms that a business can use to start up their own web store. But we're working with Shopify first, and we're launching a product that we're going to talk about called ClickWear. It's an app for Shopify. But to answer your question, Shopify is a great platform in terms of the ability to easily start up a web store, but also have robust features in the web store platform that can accommodate your growth. So you might start off as a small business and get started. It's easy to use, has great tools for you to sell products, great tools for you to market those products. It connects well with social media platforms, and it can really grow with you quickly. But Shopify also works for very large companies, huge retail companies. So they do this by adding third-party application development to their platform. So we're all familiar with apps for your phone, and the term apps. Shopify allows outside developers to develop tools that can piggyback onto the Shopify store. So that makes for a great platform for a startup business to grow all the way up to a huge multi-million-dollar business and anything in between. And it's also very economical. I think they have a promotion right now that gives you a 3 months trial at $1 a month to get you started,
all right.
and then moves into about $29 per month. So we feel that's a fantastic platform to get started with some of the efforts that we're doing to serve our customer base.
Okay, great. And transparency. We don't we're not sponsored by Shopify or make any money. It's just a tool that's out there. And we talk about tools all the time on this podcast for any listeners out there, whether it's CRM tools, email marketing tools, and all these are just tools in our belt that we all have experience with and used. And as you mentioned with Shopify, the cool thing about that product is its scalability, right? You can start at $1 a month, kind of just shoestring budget, and theoretically work up to millions of dollars a year on the same platform, which is cool. We don't use Shopify for our online store here at ColDesi on ColemanandCompany.com, but we've created a different platform that's probably not a startup platform that you'd work with tons of other customization that you can do. But the app ability is a really cool thing on Shopify. So the steps to kind of setting up Shopify, right, as we mentioned before, right? You go online, you choose like a template and you sign up, and then you say, I want to start selling t-shirts. So you write in the descriptions of your t-shirts and you start uploading pictures. And great when you've got 2, 3, 5 things you're selling, but all of a sudden that scales up really fast. And what I mean by that is, 2 products can easily turn into 2,000 products when you talk about different options and colors and logos and customers that you're going to be working with. And a lot of that work is done not in Shopify, but in an art app somewhere. So you would have to be using Photoshop or Canva or some, Illustrator, CorelDRAW, something like that to physically edit the art files that you're going to be working with. So you may get a picture from a manufacturer that's of a shirt, and you're selling a logo on it. So you got to go into Photoshop or something like that and put the logo on it and then upload that to Shopify to sell online. So that's no problem when you're doing like 10 of those, but you had recognized a problem for when you're trying to go much larger than that. So can you kind of maybe walk through the story of how that can scale up really fast and how much time that could potentially take?
Sure. Yeah. There's a great question. One of the challenges for not just startup businesses, but many existing businesses that want to start selling online is not just choosing which web store platform to use, but in our industry, when it comes to decorating products, we have a lot of what we call variants in what we offer our end customers. And the variants are things like colors. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you have a particular product, you have a t-shirt, and that t-shirt may come in, some of them come in 20 plus different colors.
Yeah.
Not only do they come in different colors, but they come in different sizes and so forth. So once you've chosen a web store platform, now you've got to create what we call digital assets. These are your product images. And when you're creating your product images, it becomes a challenge challenge in creating all of the different variants. So if I want to create a forest green T-shirt for a school that I'm working with, but their school colors are actually green, white, black. Now I have 3 different color variants in a T-shirt that I need to create for them. Create the graphics to put on those T-shirts, and then upload them to the web store. So I'm using things like Photoshop to grab a product image. I have to edit that. I have to upload a graphic and sort of superimpose it on top of the T-shirt to make this product image, to then upload every different size and variant color into the web store. And that process can become very challenging and time consuming. So we recognize these challenges and these steps that you need to take to sell online. And we've actually worked on solutions to address that.
Okay, cool. So we're going to talk about that solution then, but I want to do some variant math just for fun, right?
Okay.
So let's say you mentioned a school had 3 colors,
Sure.
right? And then you're also going to sell maybe, for sake of numbers, 5 or 6 different sports teams, right? And then each has kind of a boys and a girls team, right? So there's so you've got 3 variants for color times 6 variants for the number of sports times 2 variants for the girls and guys, which may have different styles of shirts, or they may just have different logos even sometimes, right? So just in that one small school, you've got 36 different variants that you need to create in images just for that. And that's kind of how that math works. You do the number of colors times the number of options times the number of this. And then, so as that number continues to grow, it gets to a pretty big number. And we sell blanks on ColemanandCompany.com. So we started off with, we're just going to sell, I think we started off with like 100 was like a number. We just said, let's just start with a small number, easy to do. We'll just pick 100. That'll give some people some options and get a feel for how they like it. Well, like you said, some of these products had, and I'll do the calculator again. So we chose the 100 products. Some of them had up to like 30, 40 colors, and some had 7 colors. So if we just average like 20 or something like that, times 20 colors, times the number of sizes, which was like extra small up to some of them 5X. So let's just say like 5 sizes for each. We quickly went to 10,000 SKUs on our store.
Unbelievable. Sure.
For 100 products, right? Just like in a snap. And we were like, 100 easy. No, 100 turned out to be 10,000. So maybe the school in that example are a couple of not even extremes yet, because we have almost 100,000 SKUs at this point. But one of the things to consider is that, you get a school and you have to do 36 different Photoshop edits. Now, you also may have a back of the shirt that's being decorated. So now you double that number. Sure. It's another variant. So you times that times 2, front and back. And then if they have, so they could do a sleeve as well, potentially. So then now you can add another one, right? So now you're times 3 on that variant. And then all of a sudden the teachers love it. And they said, well, hey, the teachers want to have options for shirts too. So now you have a whole nother set. All of a sudden you could quickly jump from 5 to 10 variants to 36 to 360 variants for one customer, which means you're in Photoshop or wherever, Canva, whatever, 360 times editing that photo. And that is a problem that you would kind of recognize, that then all of a sudden just someone says, the effort's not worth it, or I'm just not going to show the back of the shirt, or I'm just not going to show all the colors online. I'll just show the white one, and then I'll just let them choose green or black, and that just is, you are lessening the experience for your customer because of the fact that how am I going to do 360 edits? All right. And even if it only takes you like 10 seconds to edit, which is absurdly fast, you have to save the file, upload the file, locate the file, all of those things are like 5 seconds, 5 seconds, 5 seconds times 360 times. It's like you've got like a week's worth of work in editing and uploading files. right? So that's kind of the birthplace of ClickWear that you mentioned before. So I'd like to chat a little bit about that. And on the podcast, just for transparency, right, we're put on by ColDesi. Both of us work for ColDesi in this particular episode, but we try not to make these a commercial, right? This is education, which I think is why the first X many minutes, 15 minutes, we started just really helping folks understand kind of this online store problem. But now I want to dive into ClickWear. So let's talk about it, and of course, tell all the great features about it, and hopefully folks get interested. And then now that we've kind of started a lightweight introduction, let's dive into some of the deeper stuff and really help folks make a decision on how they can sell better, how if they should sell online, how they can sell better online, and then how potentially ClickWear might be the solution for them. So maybe give us a summary of ClickWear. Tell us what it does.
So ClickWear is a Shopify app that addresses some of the challenges that we're talking about. And it's designed to meet the needs of the way that most of the community-based decoration business is done. And what I mean by that is we have let's say you're a printer in your town and you print t-shirts, and more than likely, you're addressing your immediate community with your services. And you have a relationship with that community. So you have a relationship with the local service companies, like your plumbers, your electricians. You have a relationship with local schools and sports teams and so forth. And you're already deciding through your current process or your new process, if you're out there starting new business and generating new business and talking amongst your community, you're already generating your orders with that customer, and you're already talking about what it is you can deliver. You're already talking about what it is that customer wants you to deliver for them. And now that you've established that person-to-person communication and you've made that sale, there isn't an easy way for you to then have that customer purchase from you online.
Right. And so the challenge is, and this is old school versus new school challenges in ordering things, right? It's no secret on this podcast that we tell everybody, how do you make money? And it's like, get some samples, throw them in your car, get some business cards or flyers, throw them in your car, drive around town, visit all the local shops, go to baseball games, tell people what you do, go to your kid's baseball game, tell people what you do, go join the Chamber of Commerce, go to luncheons for business owners. That's how you make, that's a great way to expand your business and reach potentially beyond your goals as a business owner in this industry. So that's a way to do it. The problem is, as you mentioned, so you talk to maybe there's a real estate firm, 15 miles from your shop, and they are hiring they're hiring and firing people, or new realtors are coming in. And so they're always kind of ordering shirts. Maybe they even give T-shirts out, congratulations on your new home or something like that they do. Who knows what they're doing? But anyway, they're ordering customized stuff. Well, every time they want to place a new order, they have to call you or email you that order, which is a great way to get mistakes in your orders, right? Because people will call while they're driving. They forget to say something. They didn't write a note down. We hear letters and words wrong all the time, on the phone. And then same thing, email too. They're going to email you something and they're going to forget to include the sizes. Hey, I need 5 more of these shirts. Okay, what size? This. Okay, what color? This. Okay, now you're back and forth. And going, online in this scenario, before there's a concept of selling online, meaning you're going to try to get your business online, which is by advertising on Google or social media, or creating a social media account that drives people to your store, which is one way. The other way that kind of online sales is just a tool to make the job ordering easier for one, and more accurate on the other. So you have your customers come through, and that's just what it is. You tell your customer, okay, great to meet you. I'm glad we got your first order all set. The next time you want to order, here's another tool. You go to mystore.com and you just pick the sizes and colors you want and the design. And then when you hit go, it comes to me and I just place the order. So that's a great reason to sell online, not necessarily because you're trying to market online, which is different, right? So that kind of gets into this. Now, part of the solution we discussed was that it's creating some of the art is a little bit of the frustration. So let's just maybe, I gather we can pick up from there, right? So we're a community-based business. We realize that selling online is important because it makes reordering and ordering again much easier for our customers. It also scales it, meaning that the person who orders the shirts for, say, a local school or something like that can provide a link to parents and students to order online. It doesn't have to be done necessarily through a paper form through the office or something like that. So maybe you'll pick up from there. And how does the ClickWear app helping to create the store?
So to summarize the challenges and the questions that we get are, we'd love to sell online, and what are the steps to do so, and how does that make my business more efficient, and the challenge that many folks were having were not just creating the product images and choosing what type of e-commerce platform to use, but also how to produce the orders efficiently. Mm-hmm. So we recognize that being able to not only make it easier for the customer to purchase from the decorator, but also for the decorator to produce those orders efficiently needed to be tied together. So what we've done is we've created a tool that helps mock those products up quickly. It's an app that connects to your Shopify store, and it comes full with a catalog of the most popular products out in the industry. Most importantly, product images that are all consistent. One of the things you mentioned earlier was that user experience and coming on the site and having a nice looking site and having nice looking images. We've gone ahead and filled up an automatic catalog full of product images, front and backs of shirts, bags, caps, all sorts of things, and that will continue to grow. We'll continue to add to that catalog. But the idea is that they're nice, clean images of products that you can then use the ClickWear tool to mock the products. So within the tool structure, you can choose a blank product, let's say a t-shirt, and you can add your customer's logo to the t-shirt. You can choose what color t-shirts in that variety of t-shirts you want to offer and the different sizes. Mm-hmm. And when you're done mocking up your product and click add product to my Shopify store, it will then duplicate those images across all those different variants and all different colors. So we're satisfying that first challenge of creating nice products at speed for those customers so that those end customers can access those products on that store. Then the art files that you're actually using to mock the products and create those t-shirts travel. It's a term in the industry we call travel. Those art files travel with the product so that when that end customer, that school, purchases that t-shirt, in your orders folder in Shopify, you'll actually see the art file attached to it so that you can easily download it straight to your production floor, to your printer, to your art team, or whomever is going to do the actual pressing and printing on the product. So it's a great tool, but more so a great process to meet the needs of a market that's been underserved for quite some time.
Yeah, so that's excellent. And I'd like to kind of, I'm just a big fan of like rewording things and saying them differently, because I know I listen to a ton of podcasts and I'll hear a guest come on who is in the weeds of a product, right? They're talking about a piece of software or whatever, and they talk about it from this great high level. And then sometimes I'm like, what did he say? Like, what does that mean? So I'm just a fan, and I like it a lot with podcasts when kind of the host kind of helps to like bring it down a little bit. So essentially what we're saying is that you have a school that has a logo, and you're gonna put that online so the school can order shirts and hoodies and all stuff like that. And there's all the famous brands and styles that are out there that's available. The art's already on ClickWear, so like Port and Company, Hanes, Gildan, District, like all these, you're going to have shirts and hats and hoodies and stuff like that the images are already there. And you literally drag in the logo and you put it where it would be on the shirt. And then when you hit save, in so many words, it'll populate it. So if you offer it in 3 colors, all of those images will come in all the colors, so the customer can see. They can click on green and see what the logo will look like on green, and white, and then they'll see what it looks like on white. And all the images are meant to be for online stores. So they're all consistent, the same size, the lighting is similar, they're all been edited professionally, designed for use on an online store. And then when the customer goes through the end and clicks buy, the art file that's supposed to go on the shirt, the literal file, is in the order. So whoever's running the orders, whether you own your own business or you have employees, can click and grab the file and put it into the printer in very, the shortest possible way of saying that, but literally take the file and put it into the printer. So the right one goes on the shirt. Is that a pretty decent short version of that?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah. What I like about that, especially a couple things I like about that. For one, all that variant stuff like goes away, which is like, which is really annoying to do. We've done that before. On our online store, we had to deal with variants, and so it's really annoying. So I love that that's taken care of. But also, the other problem that I deal with in marketing, and anybody who does marketing realizes, is asset management. And anybody who creates custom apparel or t-shirts or mugs or anything is dealing with that asset management as well. And what I mean is, your customer provides you a logo, and that's the logo that you print on things, right? And then your customer emails you and says, hey, we rebranded, here's the new version of our logo, different font or color or something like that. Great. And you save it in a file somewhere. Well, then you update the image online and everything looks right. The customer hits order. Well, whoever's printing, they may go into the file folder that they normally go into, grab the logo that they normally grab, not necessarily realizing that they've grabbed the old version, print 100 shirts, ship them out, and then the customer says, why'd you send the old logo? So I think that we solve this problem of the wrong file being printed too. Because in marketing, we deal with that all the time, where somebody will do a Photoshop to put something online and they use the wrong version of the logo. So managing that is a problem in and of itself. And this tool actually just kind of solves that automatically.
It does. And traditionally, you in this industry, you try to make sure that end customer authorizes a mock-up that you've made for them. And that's the process. But using an e-commerce platform and these types of tools speeds that process up too, because you're actually creating a virtual product. Your mock is your virtual product, and your customer can see that virtual product online. And it's a quick authorization. It saves you time and back and forth. And it's really the essence of what on-demand is. You're creating these virtual representations of your products. Just because they're digital doesn't mean they don't exist. They actually exist. The art file exists. The product image exists. You just haven't ordered that blank in stock yet, right? So on demand in its essence is the ability to have that virtual product, have your customer access that product, purchase it, you get the order, no matter the quantity, and then you order those blanks on demand. Maybe you have some stock on a shelf, but you haven't pre-printed it, but you're fulfilling that order on demand. And to get to a zero index inventory is every production team's and inventory control team's dream, right? To minimize that inventory as best you can. And having a platform and having a process like this and truly embracing on demand allows for that. And so that's what you want to happen. Is to have that product represented, all your processes in line. So when a customer purchases it, it cues your ordering of the blank, your order of your art file, and increases your margins, increases your turn time, and increases the variety of things you can offer, right? Because now you reduce your minimum quantities. Maybe you've been a print shop that offers maybe your screen printer and your lowest minimum quantity is 12 or 24 pieces because you can't set up your presses to knock out these smaller orders, right? And you want to move to digitally printed platforms. Well, now you can do that by having an on-demand process.
You said a few things there that are really interesting to me. So one was you mentioned about maybe an item you've never had in stock before, or you don't normally keep in stock. So if we want to talk about, like, let's just say 10 years ago, not even that long ago, if you wanted to sell a new hat or a hoodie or a shirt or whatever it was, and you wanted to put it online, the process would be you would order some, get them in, either take pictures and Photoshop on, or actually just physically make some and take pictures of the made product and then post that online.
Physically print it and take a picture of the finished product.
Right, and which isn't necessarily that hard, but it sure has a lot of barriers between it. Like, do I want to sell that product? I have to take the time, I have to print. If you're screen printing, for sure, there's a lot of steps in there. Even just in general, it's a project. Now with this type of product, you can actually experiment, like, in 5 minutes. You can run an experiment on your site to see if a particular product or style will be viable to your customers, meaning that you can be in the ClickWear catalog, and you could search for hats and say, look at that, mesh back trucker style cap. I wonder if the folks at this school that I work with are going to like that. Logo, slap, pick the 3 colors you're going to offer, hit go, put it online, and then you can go into your email marketing platform if you have one, or just honestly just send blank emails or texts with a link saying, hey, by the way, I'm now offering this. What do you guys think? And someone can see a mock-up of that product that you spent like minutes creating, and they could literally order one right there, or at least give you feedback. Oh yeah, thanks. I think the students are going to love this. I'll go ahead and I'll include it in the next newsletter. And you didn't have to go through ordering all of this stuff. You literally just went on there and just clicked a few buttons and it did it for you. And then when the orders come in, then that's when you can go ahead and actually physically place your orders with the apparel supplier, which most of them come in a day, right? Yeah. So I love that process. It really just, it allows you to, I since I'm in marketing, I really like, running experiments on products and trying new things. And so it immediately crushes that barrier to be able to try that out. And then the second thing is you don't just have to go through that. You don't necessarily have to order something every time and produce it and put it all together. So I know that that's got to be a frustration for people. So kind of moving from that idea, then what are a few ideal customers for the ClickWear product? I gather there's not just one, but can you name maybe a few examples of somebody who should probably investigate this a little bit more?
It's really a tool to help any business that is selling a decorated product. Let's just stick with printing, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a business, startup or existing, that is selling products that have to be printed, be it with standard art files and logos, or even if it's user generated or personalized, a tool like this helps you create those virtual products so that you're in that on-demand process and you can offer that to your customer base. And by doing so, you can offer a wider variety of products than you ever thought you could, a wider variety of products. So it can be, for example, a local-based print shop that again wants to go out to local schools and organizations within their community. But I've been talking recently to a company that sells pet products nationally. Mm-hmm. They sell pet accessories, so little scarves and collars and all sorts of things. And they are an existing company with a big internet following already. Mm-hmm. And they want to be able to offer a wider variety of products. They don't want to keep inventory of all the pre-printed products. Mm-hmm. So they want to be able to have control of ordering blank scarves and handkerchiefs and things for dogs, for example, is one of their big sellers. They'll be able to have access to order the blanks on demand and put up a wide variety of styles on their web store.
Yes.
And so this now helps them quickly create mocks and offer a wider variety of scarves with different types of artwork than they ever could before. Mm-hmm. So from an established online business to a small business, it doesn't matter. The tools are agnostic, and the business model is on demand, and it helps you achieve that.
I like that. Then, I don't like to get into. I never am a big fan of getting into specific prices on the podcast because I like the podcast to be good for years, and economies and prices of things change. But it sounds to me like it's affordable if you're saying a startup. Is it a large investment for a startup to get going with this app? I mean, we already know that Shopify can start at you said a special they're on now, it's like $1 a month, but generally speaking, under $50 a month, you could have like a pretty nice store going with that. What about this app? Is there a big startup cost? Can you just elaborate on that a little bit?
It's a great question. We feel that we've done a good job at addressing a specific segment of the market. The technical term for the tool we've created, ClickWear, is a configurator and OMS system.
Okay.
Really fancy, techie, geeky words, right?
Yeah, I like big words.
Configurator is the ability to configure a product digitally. Mm-hmm. That's creating it, choosing colors, adding a graphic image, and sizing and mocking it up. That's called configuration. And OMS, order management, is what happens after it's been purchased. How do you track your order, match up that art file to that product to be ordered? And there's a whole workflow process involved.
Like checking off that it's been completed.
Absolutely. And done. Inventory control, and as sophisticated as you want to get, these tools will help you do that. Mm-hmm. Put in the order for you automatically to some of the blanks companies out there that sell the t-shirts. It'll automate for you. So there's a lot of sophistication there. And typically, up until now, this is probably the 5th configurator that I've been involved with in the development process. Okay. The 4 before it were in the hundreds of thousands of dollars to produce.
Yeah,
they were either for major manufacturers or major retailers, and everyone's pretty much familiar, if you're an online shopper, which 80+% of the U.S. population now buys something online, or is comfortable buying something online. You've seen where you can design a T-shirt or personalize a product. So we're all familiar with what actually configurators are, and they've been reserved for really top tier companies and retailers.
Right.
And so they're at the hundreds and thousands of dollars to develop these tools. But what we've done is we've concentrated on this specific market segment, and we've made it very affordable. We've democratized these tools, and for a small percentage transaction fee, which most of these tools work this way, where there's a transaction fee involved in using the tool, which is great because you're only investing in the tool when you're selling.
Okay, so in so many words, you're paying a very, very small fee for just when the tool is used.
That's correct.
Okay,
that's correct.
Okay,
so you're creating all these wonderful products, but if maybe they're all experimental, but you don't pay unless it's actually purchased. So and it's a very small percentage. So it's something that can be worked into the pricing,
right?
And which works out very well. So we think that's an economical approach. We're also including it in some of the important equipment that helps with on demand, like DTF printers.
Okay.
So there's some great opportunities that the system is bundled in, and then we also have a consulting arm where for really true startups or businesses that need help getting it launched, we have a setup option where we'll actually help you set everything up and help fast track your ability to use the app and the tool and actually create a workflow for yourself very quickly while you're doing other things for your business, like setting it up, going and talking to customers. We can help you with fast tracking the use of the tools. So these are all options and very affordable and easy ways to get started and have a very powerful online business, even as a startup or even as an existing business pivoting into this for the first time.
So what's cool about this is you could be a startup or maybe just the first time you're ever actually selling online. Maybe you're not a startup, but you've never truly had an online store. And you can have a configurator that you can start using immediately for a very low cost, right in the beginning, just extremely low cost up front, and be competing against a much larger competitor that custom built a configurator 5-10 years ago for $200,000.
That's correct.
You could potentially be using a tool that's equal or maybe even better. So it really flattens out the playing field. So a local shop can create a website where their local customers can easily order and buy and reduce the workload for everybody around. Like I said earlier, somebody doesn't necessarily have to fill out a piece of paper, bring it to the front office of the school, and then somebody at the school has to pass it to the next person who emails you to order your shirts and go through that whole thing, which is a bunch of work for a lot of people, plus handling the money. Somebody's got to get a check and then it goes through a whole system, gets lost, who knows, right? So all of that can get crunched down into something very simple. You have a sophisticated tool that allows you to compete. So somebody doesn't necessarily feel like, oh, well, I'm just going to go to, Vistaprint or something like that, which, I don't know. I don't know anybody there. I'm sure they're wonderful people at that organization. But if you're a small business, sometimes you have to compete with these really large businesses. And this flattens that out, which is really remarkable. So, what I'd like to do is kind of give some folks a little call, the action if they're interested in learning about the product, and then if you have a few more minutes, you mentioned DTF printing before. I'd like to just talk a little bit about that for a few minutes. So if you already know everything there is if you're listening and you know everything there is to know about DTF printing and you want to be done now, fine, but we'll keep it short. Just to get some of your expertise on that product, since you know a lot about that too. But you can go to ColDesi.com. And if you click on the top menu, you'll find the area where you see stuff about Shopify and ClickWear and on-demand. If you fill out a form on one of those pages, you'll probably talk directly to Mike here, if not one of his colleagues. And you can talk about ClickWear. You can talk about anything truly custom. So if you're listening to this and you've got a reasonably sized business and you say, yeah, that Shopify app sounds cool, but I'm looking for this and this and this, which is significantly more custom, you can assist with that, right?
That's correct.
So you can do all of that consulting and helping develop apps and configurators and all of that stuff that's custom, or just help somebody get in the right direction for ClickWear as well. Right? Good summary?
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
All right, good. So go to ColDesi.com, check it out, fill out a form, live chat, talk to Mike or one of his colleagues over here at ColDesi and see if one of these tools can actually help your business grow. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Everybody out there, appreciate you listening. Please visit ColDesi.com to check out everything that we mentioned, all the different pieces of equipment and all that stuff. We have all that stuff available to learn about, and check out ClickWear and the on-demand products if those are right for you too. And go to customapparelstartups.com where you can check out this episode online, and I'll put in some notes and some links to the various things that we spoke about as well. So thanks everybody, and have a good business.